Morning, we come to the River Ouzel today in Newport Pagnell. This small stretch of river is renowned for its winter roach fishing, so we're going to have a busy day hopefully, and going to fish 2 lines, 5 metres with ground bait and pinkies, and across at 11 metres. I'm going to try potting in some hemp and see if I get a few bigger fish on that. So river looks nice, got a bit of a downstream wind, but the conditions are sort of okay, and I'm sure there's loads of fish here, so we're going to get loads of bites. Ground bait for today. So 99% of the fish here are roach, so basically I'm going to use spotted fin Go To Naturals roach. I've used this ground bait a lot in Ireland and here in the UK, and it's a lovely mix. Got coriander in it and a bit of hemp and all sorts of bits and pieces that roach like. I know it works well, I've used it a lot, but I'm going to combine it with a couple of other products today. And the first one is crushed hemp, which spotted fin sell, lovely fresh crushed hemp. And I've done something that actually a few of the spotted fin anglers in Ireland have been doing, and that's taking the crushed hemp and pouring boiling water on it, sort of an hour, well basically in the morning before you leave home to go fishing, and letting that water soak into the hemp. So you can see it's turned into like a lovely sort of porridge of pure hemp. Loads of attraction. We know roach love hemp because we catch loads of roach on hemp, and putting that into the ground bait is like adding particles to the ground bait, increasing the sort of food content and the attraction. So I have done this before in the past, but not very often, and sort of hearing what the guys have been up to, I thought I'd give it a go, and today's a perfect opportunity. So I've got a pint of crushed hemp, covered it in water, left it in the bait box, and I'm going to chuck that in the ground bait. So that's my initial sort of mixing. That's not going to be enough water to bring the ground bait to the humidity I want, but it's a start. So I need more water, and I'm going to add coriander and fenugreek bait sauce. This is a new product, it's only just come out from Spotted Fin. Smells of fenugreek and coriander. And that's like a gloopy liquid. Again, it's an attractor. It's just going to deaden down the mix a little bit. And that's the other thing with the hemp. If you put the crushed hemp in without soaking it, a lot of it would float up off the bottom and make your ground bait very active, which in certain situations is great, but when you're trying to catch a lot of roach, and I mean a lot, you don't want loads of bits coming off your ground bait, because it'll attract smaller fish, it'll bring the fish off the bottom, and you'll catch smaller fish. So that's sort of the real big reason to soak the crushed hemp. So a bit more water with this bait sauce. That's going to deaden down some of the other particles as well. It won't make it totally dead, and it'll just give the ground bait another boost. So 2 kilo bag, about 1/3 of a bottle of bait sauce and a pint of hemp, and we've sort of given our ground bait a bit of a boost, a bit more attraction and a bit more food content and a lot more hemp content. So I'll leave that for 5 minutes, see what it needs, a bit more water in the riddle I expect, and hopefully catch a load of fish on it. Right, I've set up 3 rigs today. This is my swim. Like I say, I've got the 5 metre line where I'm going to either pot balls of ground bait with pinkies and hemp in, or throw little balls. We'll have to see which is better. And I've set 2 rigs up for that. How I'm going to fish it is, this is the top 4 on this pole. So I'm going to fish it, you could fish it to hand with a whip, but to be honest, with the wind and a few other factors, I think it's better to fish with a top 4 with the rig the whole length of the top 4 plus a joint. So that way I can drop the rig in, control it better because my tip will be in line with the float. With a whip I'd have the tip would be further back than the float, and I can hold back, I can run it through. I'll miss less bites because I'll be striking directly onto the float. There'll be no bow in the line, and I think that's going to be a better way of fishing. I've got the elastic rather than a flick tip, and if I hook a big fish I've got more chance getting it out. And for this line I've set up 2 rigs. I've set up a 1.5 gram round bodied float. This one's got a wire stem and a plastic tip. I can hold on to that rather than use a pencil float, which will be tricky to control in the wind. I've gone for a round float. I've got an Olivet, and on there's 3 number 9 droppers. I can bring the bulk down closer to the hook if I want. I've got a 6-inch hook length 0.10 to an 18 long shank hook, and I've got a number 6 elastic just through the 2 sections, because these tips have got a little tip in, so it's through the 1 and the 2. So there's like probably a metre of elastic in there, which means I'll be able to swing the fish. So that's me first rig. The second rig is basically the same, but it's 2.5 grams. Got a slightly different float on here. Bit of a tapered body on that one, plastic tip, carbon stem, doesn't really matter either way. And that one's got a 6 to 8 slick elastic through the tip, so a bit of a heavier elastic, bit of a heavier float and a bit more positive. And then across at 11 metres, it's a bit of an experiment really. I've just put a whole pot of hemp over there, which I'm going to leave, and I've got a 0.75 rather float, little round bodied float with a plastic tip and a carbon stem, and a 5 elastic through the whole top kit on a puller. And that one I'm just going to leave it, put a slip of grain of hemp on later and run it over the top, see if I get a few bigger fish. So very simple, 3 rigs. I've got my ground bait. As it goes, the ground bait didn't really need any more water after I mixed it. That's perfect, very sticky. It's a sticky mix anyway, but I think that syrup, that liquid has made it even stickier. I've got plenty of pinkies, I've got plenty of hemp, and I'm going to lace that bait with pinkies and hemp. And like I say, either pot it or throw it. But the key is to get a lot of particles onto the bottom of the river and try and get those roach lined up. And hopefully the more you feed, the bigger the roach will get. So I'm going to feed that a little bit downstream and see how the sort of session progresses, where the bites come, and adjust things from there. But hopefully we'll have a good day. I'm sure we will, actually. So I'm fishing 5 metres today to start off with. I fed my hemp line across and the fishing's good. There's a lot of fish here, they're quite small and it's quite tricky. Got this nasty downstream wind which has just dropped nicely, and yeah, I think the way I'm fishing is good rather than a whip, because I need to present the bait well. I need to hold it back and then let it go a little bit when I get an indication, and then it goes and I get one. That's not a bad one. I've been throwing in little balls of ground bait, not too often because it seems to send them a bit scatty, and I start missing a few bites, and there are a lot of small fish here, so I'm still feeling my way into it. I did start off the session by potting in 3 big balls of ground bait full of pinkies and hemp, and then I sort of tried to fish by catching a runner fish and then putting another big ball in. But to be honest, I got very small fish doing that, and when I started chucking in little hard balls, the fish got bigger. So I think that's the way to go. You can see the wind now, it's tricky. With a whip you'd be wasting your time. You can hold it back, it goes. Little fish. I've had a pike already, so I don't think that's really helped the swim, but the fishing's really good. Like I say, the fish are a bit smaller than I expected, but I think the river has dropped a lot recently. So you can see, even though I've got a shortish line on, I can just swing the rig out, control the float, hold it back. That's the sort of killing zone. Hold it back, let it go. Indication. Ooh, go on. No, missed that one. Yeah, so in the ground bait got hemp and pinkies. Not too many, because they are a bit... It gets fished here every day by the look of it. There's red punch on the bank, so someone's fished it yesterday, and I was lucky to get a swim actually, even though it's in the week. There's one. I can swing the fish to hand. So yeah, so the fishing's good. I think we'll get a good weight. A few things to sort of consider with the feeding, not going too mad with it. And hopefully I'll get a few bigger ones on hemp across. I'm not loose feeding across or anything, I'm just leaving the bed of hemp out there to sort of draw the fish in, and hopefully they'll settle on it and get a few bigger ones. Just hold it back. Let it go. There you go, that one. So you can see, even though you're not on a whip, it's like fishing a whip. You can get a good weight. But it is noticeable that your hook bait's got to be perfect. No, you know, if you go back out with a squash maggot, you just miss bites. And considering how many fish are here, it is obvious they are quite tricky. So, we've been fishing probably just over 2 hours. That's a nice roach, isn't it? And the peg's settled down now. Been feeding consistently, little balls, nearly every run through, in the same spot. And the fish have got a bit bigger. And the best way to fish it is to drop the rig in upstream of where I'm feeding. I'm feeding slightly downstream. Try and get the rig to trim up so all the droppers are straightened out, and run onto where the ball of ground bait is hitting the water and going down. So the better fish are grouped right on top of where the feed is. If I go down the peg a bit, I'll get a little one, or if I can't, it's a bit awkward with the tree, but if I can't quite get the rig in above the bait, there's more chance of getting a small fish. So the fish have got bigger. The way to put the rig in is up there and feeding regular, and not too many pinkies in the ground bait. Quite a lot of hemp seed, plus the hemp that we put in when we mixed it, seems to be enough. So that's been good, probably got double figures, so I'm happy with that really. And I haven't been across on hemp yet, but I'm going to give that a go now. Hopefully some fish, there's that many fish here, I think some will have settled on it. There's even little bleak and dace and all sorts right up in the water, because every time you chuck a ball in, if there's a few loose pinkies going around, they get swirled on and disappear. So there's loads of fish here. And we'll have a little go across. So been across on hemp, plenty of roach like that and a few bigger ones. It's a good way of sort of complementing what I'm doing on the short line in a match, because the far line, the hemp line, you can just dump the hemp in. You don't need to loose feed it when there's this many fish about, and you can have a go on it, have a run of fish, and then top it up just with the big pot, put in that amount of hemp, have a marker on the far bank, put it in, let it settle, leave it alone, come short, catch a few more fish short, and when you feel like it, go back across and try and target a few bigger fish. On some venues the fish will be a lot bigger on hemp than they are on the ground bait line, and they are a bit bigger here, but probably not much difference in catch rate, to be honest. But yeah, really enjoyable, I have to say. So we've had a great session. Fishing's been outstanding really. Around about £20 in 4 hours fishing. Had a nice perch, bonus, and a pike. Caught a load on hemp across. It was solid, to be honest. No nuisance fish, no bleak or little dace or anything. If it wasn't for the wind, probably would have caught a few more, but hey, can't complain. The fishing's been brilliant. A load on the ground bait short. The mix worked well once I got sorted where to put the rig in. It was good, and yeah, overall a fantastic day's fishing. This is free fishing here, so if you fancy a good day's roach fishing, it's a great place to come.